Whenever there are knights and castles and horses and swords and boards involved in a video game, I can pretty much guarantee I'm at least interested. Whenever someone mentions Mount and Blade, I foam at the mouth a bit and I have to resist the urge to reinstall for the umpteenth time. Not long ago, Legends of Eisenwald came across my desk. Based on some screenshots and some gameplay footage, I found it looked like a cross between Mount and Blade and Heroes of Might and Magic. Then my breathing intensified. It's the offspring of a successful Kickstarter campaign from 2012 where the developers requested a comparatively small amount of $50,000 and raised over $80,000. It's nice to see small projects like this take flight. But as of July 2nd, Eisenwald has officially come out of beta and it's considered a full release, so it's fair game for all criticisms now. My first impressions of Eisenwald weren't the best. To say that it starts slowly and continues slowly is an understatement. The first 3 times I powered the game up, I got bored after 5 minutes and had to go do something else. Initially, I thought I just wasn't in the mindset, but it's a simple matter of fact that the game is much slower, less strategic, and grindier than I had anticipated. But that's not to say the game is horrible. There's definitely merit here. After a few hours of gameplay, I found myself semi-addicted and developing genuine urges to continue, thinking I can progress further if I just... Legends of Eisenwald is a hybrid tactics RPG and real-time strategy game, but with a much heavier emphasis on the RPG elements. It's a medieval fantasy game, but the setting is much more medieval than fantasy. Players pick the role of a knight, a baroness, or a mystic, and roam the countryside stopping at bars and taverns to listen to rumors and pick up quests. Players can grow the potential size of their army by conquering castles, while new recruits can be found in towns and villages. Mercenaries can also be hired for a hefty price from camps to add some extra oomph to the ranks. Combat is turn-based on a hexagonal grid. Units don't have movement or action points, so while it may appear to act like Heroes of Might and Magic, it's actually quite different. Players and enemy turns are displayed on the side, similar to Final Fantasy X. Players can organize their unit formations, but truth be told, it doesn't seem to make much of a difference as long as the melee and defense units are in the front, and ranged/caster units are in the rear. The reason? The playfield is entirely too narrow, too claustrophobic to really make use of what little tactic system is in place. Meaning, a good strategic mind probably almost never stands a chance against a superior army. There is no outmaneuvering or outsmarting the enemy when every fight plays out almost exactly the same way. So, in order to win, you need to have a strong army with a lot of experience, and by army, I really mean squad. What the game calls an army is only about 10 people you hang out with. To gain experience, you need to win battles, or complete quests, but most quests involve winning some battle or another. And you need to win a lot of them. And that's where the unnecessary grind comes into play. I found myself hunting random tiny bands of unhappy peasants for a while, just to get my army strong enough to conquer a few castles and not poop themselves at the first sign of a belligerent band of roaming mercenaries. The battles are very vexing on your squad, too. Injured units need to be hauled off to chapels to have healers bring them back to life for a pretty hefty fee. Cash is on the short side, so it's important to sell all of your unnecessary junk that you may be carrying just to settle your hospital bill. Now, before anyone confuses that statement with a complaint, it's actually a praise. I think what the developers have done here is great for their economic system. Besides using it to buy new and better gear, money has a real use and need here. It adds some great challenge and forces the player to weigh their decisions more. Income comes from only a few small sources, like selling junk or collecting it from towns you may control, which you can only tax if you have a castle, which you can only get if you have a strong enough army, which you can only get once you grind out a ton of very expensive battles. If the combat itself was more fun, I wouldn't mind the grind. If there was less grind, I wouldn't mind the combat, but right now I feel the game is stuck in a weird limbo. The combat could use so much more to make it dynamic. A terrain system would do wonders for this game. Archers could do more damage from the high ground, or melee units could do more damage if they were waiting in ambush positions. But as it is, it's very straightforward and not very exciting to play or look at. When some units level up, the player has a choice of selecting which branching skill tree they can go down. It's a nice addition, and I love looking at all the potential warriors my soldiers can become, but Eisenwald does nothing to let the player know what any of those future classes are. When you hover over potential jobs, it doesn't even list the job name. Is that an arbalist or a longbowman? Is that priest any different than the other priest? The game doesn't even show stat or skill differences, so the only way I knew which class was which was by creating a save file, making a choice, reload my game, and then pick the other, and then make my real choice. Frustrating. And that's not the only frustrating part about the game's interface. It's a very, very simple UI, and I don't hold that against Eisenwald much, but there were plenty of times I would click on areas in the environment, and I simply wouldn't move, or the game wouldn't want to attack the enemies I was chasing. The map looks very open, but the actual movable and usable area is very selective compared to what's seen. After getting frustrated a few times, I thought, maybe I skipped something in a tutorial somewhere, so I would go back and try to go through the tutorials again, only to find that the tutorials are simply JPEG instruction screens. Or after losing a battle and I would like to try again, thinking that the loss was close enough that I might be able to pull out a solid victory if luck was on my side. But clicking Replay Battle just kicked me back to the title screen. Oh. That's Eisenwald at its core. It's an awesome concept, but the execution is marred with imperfections, or mechanics that are too simple for what the developers feel like they're trying to execute. It's a niche game. The patient and the dedicated might feel some reward. I can't in good conscience call this a full review, because I haven't completed the game, but based on the hefty amount of time I've already spent within Eisenwald, I know I don't want to go back and play any further. For me, the build-up was just too slow, and the tactical system was too simple to grow any real lasting attachment. This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.